Hi, this is Cajun, and it's time for our weekly conference call. As usual, we'll start with what's happening around the globe. In terms of the world, what we're looking at are a select few still waiting for the first shoe to drop, so to speak, in terms of the economy. And real worldwide unemployment numbers. This is a hot topic today, after factoring the recent spikes in the virus outbreaks globally, along with reoccurring lockdowns. What we're also noticing is that from our research, the virus will continue to swirl around populations for some say a few years. That's a possibility, which to others could mean an indefinite period of lockdowns, or just endless pockets of lockdowns around the world. So it looks like it's going to be all about the human genome, proteome, microbiome, and immune system, along with the cytokine storms. This combined with drug repurposing and vaccines, of course, that can be developed or repurposed into a cocktail to target the virus from all sides. It's also the reason why we provide data sets designed to correlate approved drug compounds to other approved drug compounds using COVID-19 data sources and in the context of any particular subject or topic, for example, inflammation or cytokines. This is also the reason we produce data sets designed to correlate publicly traded pharmaceutical companies and drug development companies with any drug compound in the context of a gene, a protein, or an infectious disease. What we're also seeing are more special situation funds being established, along with more event-driven funds. And these are groups that will create baskets of trading vehicles that might meet a criteria or are selected or curated based on market research or based on a special situation or an event, similar to a smart basket, which is what we offer. These are set up to capture alpha in the area of life sciences and crypto, which is what we find very interesting. So this leads into the next topic, our industry, what's happening within our industry. Quite a bit. What we're seeing is a continued growth in natural language processing and natural language understanding applied to massive amounts of research being published right now in all industries and massive amounts of data being collected in all industries. And these industries, most industries, you might say 99% of them, are looking to expand their AI efforts. And this means building out natural language processing pipelines and natural language understanding pipelines to capture the built-in intelligence behind human language that surrounds events and objects, any objects. Another recent event was that a company by the name of Palantir filed to IPO. That's interesting for our space because Palantir does something that we do, and they started pretty much right after we did, when we were at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab and consulting for the Navy's SPA division related to creating relationship networks, hidden relationship networks between entities and objects. And you can imagine what those entities and objects might be. We decided to work on a few other things related to space biosciences, which brought us away from that project. And Palantir stepped in and began working with the Department of Defense and the CIA and so forth to establish relationship networks, basically collect and triangulate data, collect and produce metadata, and use that to construct data sets that would then be used to cluster information that was of particular interest and form hidden relationships between other objects. And to this day, Palantir specializes in that, and we have taken the path of specializing in data sets, which is something that will fuel companies like Palantir. So this will be an interesting event for us because we're also going to be establishing a dialogue with Palantir once again, and we'll see where that goes. We'll keep people updated on that. On the crypto side, the markets are holding steady, and with a pretty thin trading range, it looks like we just broke out of a very thin trading range. And that's all we have to say on that front. Progress is being made, bricks are being laid. On the internal corporate side, it's steady as she goes, and also a steady stream of dataset signups are occurring on the trial side. On the engineering and product side, we're developing a sentiment analysis engine around drug compounds. And you might ask why? Well, it just so happens that if you're a hedge fund or an asset management company, you might want to know whether or not a drug compound has positive sentiment or negative sentiment at any given moment, and in what context that negative sentiment might be in, or in what context that positive sentiment might be in. Would it be in the context of, would it be positive sentiment in the context of inflammation? And if in the context of inflammation, in the context of a direction at that point. So we're working on that. That's also going to be part of the overall offering that we have for our platform. We'll add that to our product line as a separate add-on, basically, that we'll be upselling. And on the engineering and product side, we are also fine-tuning an approved drug compounds correlated to other approved drug compounds data set using COVID-19 data sources and in the context of inflammation or cytokines. And the reason we're focused on this is because this is one of the most important data sets that's going to exist today. That's the bottom line. We're establishing ways that you can design a data set here, choose your data sources related to COVID-19, and then choose a context. And now map or relate approved drug compounds to other approved drug compounds that people may not know about. And of course that leads to new hypothesis, new experiment, new discovery, or new repurposing. On the customers, partners, and collaborators side, we are focused on the tip of our spear, and we're going to call the tip of our spear S&P Global, because we have a signed agreement with S&P Global. We have more than one agreement we need to sign. We've signed one. We have a few others that we need to sign, and that relates to the data sets that we'll be producing, just as I described previously, those data sets, as well as millions of different permutations of data sets, customizable data set options for S&P Global customers and S&P Global themselves. And these data sets will be distributed through all of S&P Global's available to all, and distributed to all of S&P Global's customer base. All of the customers that have signed up for data sets will be made aware of our data sets. And S&P Global, being the world's largest financial information provider, that is something that we are happy about, because that is a very quick path to significant revenue for us. We've also been talking with Bloomberg's Alternative Data Group last week actually. And we went through an initial vetting process with them. And that included understanding what the second stage vetting process is going to be like primarily. And let me just describe a few meeting notes that I took during the call here. So first off, we're going to go through another vetting process with Bloomberg. Our data sets will be distributed through their servers. That means they'll exist on their servers. They'll be updated somewhere else, but then they'll be distributed through their servers. That's one rule they have. The Alternative Data Group inside Bloomberg will also perform a content and dataset design review. That'll involve their internal data scientists. They'll also conduct a business design review. And they said they are stocking the shelves with data sets. They want to take a deep dive on compliance and legal, make sure everything passes their legal. And that's mostly going to be about data provenance, data lineage, which connects to whether or not this data is private or public, or who owns the data, who actually has rights to portions of the data, or to transform the data. They mentioned they'll provide a distribution agreement, and they have a global sales team of about 200 people pushing enterprise, Bloomberg, alternative data solutions, and apps. And they explicitly mentioned that they are different from these apps that they're pushing. They're different from the Bloomberg terminals. So they exist outside the Bloomberg terminals as standalone apps, apparently, web apps and things like that, mobile apps. They also mentioned that they engage in a 90-day trial. They allow their customers to engage in a 90-day trial. And then they help close the deal with their customers, or they bring us in to close the deal if they can't for some reason. That's what they mentioned to us. We're prepared to handle that too. They also mentioned that they'll handle billing and contracts between the customers themselves and our data sets and us. That's fine with us. They mentioned that alternative data is new to Bloomberg, so they're creative with partners, and that they will market and share. They'll market the data sets and they will share the revenue, and they'll take a 30% cut. They also want to explore a larger partnership, and they mentioned VXV to provide sample data sets. And the person I spoke to was John Pankare, and he was in New York, and he described how Bloomberg was handling the pandemic, in fact. And he said that was one of the reasons for their significantly delayed response. And we finished with disclosing from our side that we're working with S&P Global, and he mentioned that they are much better, of course. Bloomberg's much better, of course. And then I asked how we can help them reach their goals, how we can help their group reach their goals within Bloomberg, and he pretty much just said that it's all in the revenue sharing agreement, if we agree to that. And I said, that sounds good to us. So we'll get back. There's a bit of paperwork we have to fill out, and then the vetting process will begin. I'm not sure how long that will take, but we'll keep everyone updated. On to our next customer, UBS Evidence Lab. So Union Bank of Switzerland has what they call an evidence lab. There's actually multiple companies have evidence labs, by the way, but UBS's evidence lab consists of collecting data and triangulating data and producing data sets and distributing valuable data sets. In particular, COVID-19 data sets and COVID-19 data sets that relate to the public markets and to the financial markets as a whole. Our point person there was Ashley Musfelt, and she got back from vacation. We now have a meeting scheduled with her tomorrow on data sets related to COVID-19, drug compounds, repurposing, and public pharma companies. On the Amazon and Microsoft side, we have placed more attention on S&P Global and the financial markets data sets based on tactical maneuvers that we've had to make related to the fact that we've been in talks with Tech Futures Group. And this is based on an introduction from Alan Young, who's a longtime business partner of mine, and he's also the entrepreneur in residence at the Tech Futures Group. And he's also the founder of Runway.is, which was in the Twitter building. It had about 80 startups. He incubated about 80 startups, had a few nice exits, and also ran and founded the incubator Topline, which had a few life sciences companies, and Wet Benches, which they still have, which we can have access to. Alan and I also worked on a few deals related to legal technology and NLP, of course. So the reason I mention this is because Tech Futures Group specializes in corporate VCs, doing deals with corporate VCs. And ultimately that's what we really want to do. Is we really want to, we don't just want to be distributing our data sets through Amazon and call it a day. That's not how we grow a partnership. You grow a partnership like growing a good bacteria inside a company, which means that you provide value to multiple groups inside of a company. And when you start doing that, you gain a reputation and trust, and you prove that you can deliver on time, and you prove that you're worth something as a company and as a team, and if you can fit within their culture and so forth, then you can begin talking about expanding your partnership into investment, for example, where their corporate venture capital arm will invest in your company and support it in other ways. It's a great position to be in, and we figured instead of climbing up the ladder on this, we would just do a lateral straight from the top. So that's what we're doing with Amazon and Microsoft, and we'll keep people updated on that too. We are still moving ahead with distributing data sets at Amazon and Microsoft, but we really do need to focus on S&P Global and Bloomberg, and now the UBS Evidence Lab, as that is a faster path to revenue. Procter & Gamble and Colgate-Palmolive are under trial agreements right now, and EDF, France's largest energy company, is as well. It could take them 60 to 90 days to get back to us on whether or not they want to proceed, or whether or not they want customizations or anything like that. On the LCX side, they'll be communicating with their community from here forward. We were delayed on having LCX communicate to their community, as well as having us jointly announce something related to LCX and smart baskets, based on the Alpha Week article that we've been hammering out with the editor over there. And this is a pretty significant write-up, and it's a complex write-up, and it's also a write-up that can be digested by customers, which is very important to us. And we wanted to mention smart baskets and LCX, except the article is taking longer than everyone has thought, and we're just going to go ahead and talk about our relationship with LCX to the public, and they'll be talking about their relationship with us to the public. As of today. CERN is in progress. And new data and the others are also in progress, but they are also queued. We're timing things properly. On the IR and the PR side, we are going to wait until we get relisted on IDEX. That only makes sense before we issue any major PR. When that happens, then we'll go ahead with the S&P Global will go ahead with an announcement to the public that our data sets are available to be purchased. On the IRPR side as well, we do have that Alpha Week article, and we're going to have to do it to be determined on when the release will be. It's going to be based on. It's not going to be based on the Wirecard basket. It looks like it's going to be based on the dexamethasone basket, and that's key because the dexamethasone basket represents a miniature case study where we can show how our system is able to find a hidden relationship between dexamethasone, the cytokine storm, and another drug and a public company. That's going to be broken down in the Alpha Week article, and we're really looking forward to that in terms of kicking off a major PR event for us, series of events. On the exchanges side, I've got exchanges right after IRPR here. So I just mentioned IDEX. We don't have to mention that again. We know what we're doing there. And after we execute on a few deliverables here on the PR side, then we're going to open the dialogue with a few exchanges, a few of the largest exchanges we've mentioned in the past. And only after we've got S&P Global talking to the public about us. And maybe even making a phone call to an exchange for us. We've got the next section, which is questions from the trader base. The first question is, smart baskets is a known term with the trading community. Would it be a good marketing move to rename the smart baskets to a term with exclusivity to VectorSpace. This would instantly connect the term within PR and trade talk back to VectorSpace. Okay, so that makes a bit of sense. But based on our experience with branding and analysis of branding, we've come to learn that there are advantages and disadvantages to branding collisions, or what we call branding collisions. I'm sure marketing professionals, I'm not a CMO, but we know a lot about marketing. But these things do happen. They've happened to us in the past with names we've had for companies, and happens all the time, especially once you get popular. We actually rebranded from Starmine, and that was a brand used by multiple financial institutions. It's more common than you might imagine, actually. So right now we just appreciate the cross-pollination between brands, which can also be a strategy. The next question is, would the VXV team be willing to add liquidity to the Uniswap pool, or is there a concern about ARB opportunities? Yes. Ping us after, and based on our relisting with IDEX, we'll collect a few data points and make a decision about that. So again, after we relist on IDEX, just make contact with us. Next question is the team planning on building a new website and possibly touching up the branding? Google made it to the #1 brand in the world by having a simple interface. Most people just seem to forget this. Larry Page, I think it was Sergey Brin, actually said he didn't know HTML, he didn't care about it. He just cared about the functionality. And it had an interface that people complained for years. We are in the business of data engineering, and our current branding is geared toward and has a laser-like focus on attracting revenue-generating customers who are decision makers within data engineering organizations and groups inside small and large corporations and in every industry. And they're not concerned right now with touching up the branding of the website. We'll handle that as time moves forward. That's not a priority for us right now, especially as we are stretched thin on the engineering side. Next question is, I know Cajun has said countless times they move at their own pace, but I don't remember him explaining what made the process so long. Maybe I missed it. Anyone here know the answer? Well, our comment to that is that we are a nimble and versatile and adaptive company. We can adapt faster than most groups out there. Our only constraints relate to how fast others can move with us most of the time. Right now, all of the world's companies have been affected one way or the other by events, global events. In fact, this led to John over at Bloomberg talking to us about how Bloomberg handled the pandemic and the fact that they really just didn't know what to do for weeks, 6 weeks. I remember that's what he was saying. It was for weeks, upper management, the executive level, just had some problems. Really, like so many other companies. I mean, nobody prepared to exit or enter and then exit a pandemic. So this has wreaked havoc throughout all groups and companies and employer-employee relationships, one way or the other, around the world. And by the way, we talked about Bloomberg's alternative data group, about 5 weeks ago. And John apologized because it had taken 5 weeks for him to get back. That's an example of how things work today. There's going to be a lot of stopping and starting. That's just a fact of life now. And those companies and individuals that can adapt to being interrupt-driven will survive and thrive. We usually keep a little section for dataset insights. And we're not going to get too much into that, with the exception of mentioning that we still are working on our dataset competition. So send us your ideas. We'll collect a few and take best of breed. On the strategy side, we're establishing a relationship with Fidelity, and we've been doing this for about a year, and we're making good progress here. We did have a meeting with them scheduled. We've got another one scheduled next week, so we'll be looking forward to updating the team on how that's going. On the S&P Global side, we are looking at S&P Global as the tip of the spear here, combined with the Alpha Week article, breaking down the dexamethasone example. We are going to be focused on passing the Bloomberg vetting process, the Bloomberg's Alternative Data Division, their vetting process, not Bloomberg News, the data division, as that'll be a milestone toward significant revenue for us. So if anyone has any questions, this is a pre-recorded call, so feel free to submit them online. Otherwise, we'll close the call and I'll see you online. Thanks for joining.